Last but not least, we're here to present you our thesis project, Rooted Restaurants. Food and culture are the heart and soul of every city. We all have a soft place in our hearts for the restaurants we love. It's not just the food connecting us, but the carefully selected ambience, thoughts, welcoming faces, and bright spaces that continually invite us in for another meal. But then the pandemic happened and left the restaurant industry scrambling for survival. In mid-March 2020, New York restaurants began to close preemptively, just days before the state mandate shut down. Many of our most cherished restaurants that we gather lifelong memories will never reopen again. This unique time of COVID-19 also presents as an opportunity of much-needed reflection and change in the restaurant industry.
The restaurant industry is one of the largest and fastest growing sectors of the U.S. economy, employing 15.1 million employees, yet it is the lowest paying. The restaurant industry has a lot of issues related to inequity that can be traced back to structural racism and ultimately capitalism. A 2020 report from the New York City Comptroller's Office found that 85% of Black, Indigenous, and people of color and women-owned restaurants believe that they won't survive the next 6 months. And 30% believe they will be out of business within a month. When we spoke to Wendy Garcia, who is the Chief Diversity Officer from the New York City Comptroller's Office, she told us that these issues around inequity are because of the way that these systems and formal institutions have been built that left out many people of color from having the same access.
So we are Evan, Bridget, and Dasha. We are a team of 3, and this project arises from our deepest appreciation for food and the sorrow we felt when restaurant industry was struggling in the pandemic. Our work is rooted in both theory and the ground community research with multiple stakeholders. Throughout the project, we have conducted 24 expert interviews, 23 resident intercepts, more than 90 literature and media reviews, and 17 hours plus of participatory activities. The research takes place in East Village, which is a lively historical neighborhood that celebrates diversity in food and culture. We have partnered with a local community organization, East Village Community Coalition, and work closely with Laura Sewell, who is the executive director of the organization.
Through our research, we learned that restaurants are not traditionally connected to each other. We spoke with Nicole Biscardi, who's the hospitality specialist at the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and she shared that she would like to see restaurant owners sharing solutions with one another and cross-pollinating ideas in the industry. We learned that historically restaurant owners don't speak to each other, yet they face a very unstable business with unpredictable futures and very low profit margins. They also face very much increased barriers, and this is especially true in the financial institutions for people of color, immigrant-owned, and women-owned restaurants. They also work in silos, so restaurant owners don't know what other owners are facing, and they don't know what solutions they are coming up with. And we began to wonder what might change if they were to operate from an interdependent model. We spoke with Jen Kim, who's a senior advisor at the New York City Office of Economic Opportunity, and she shared that restaurants that were connected to their communities were able to recover more quickly from the pandemic.
So through our organization, we partner with a cohort of 8 restaurants. It's a diverse cohort with different cuisine and culture, including Ethiopian, Mexican, Mediterranean, Indian, etc. Talking to these restaurant owners made us notice the community thrival rooted in interdependence. Ollie, the owner of CMB Cafe, believes that CMB is deeply rooted in its community. Throughout the pandemic, CMB has been distributing bakery goods to other local restaurants, donating meals, banking local, knowledge sharing with other restaurant owners, and also focused on building relationship with local residents.
Ollie shared with us that since day one, he's made a point to know his customers' names in their regular order. He says that CMB Cafe is often the meeting grounds for both new residents and longtime residents to meet and develop connections. He says that this relational aspect is one of the most important pieces of his business. Ultimately, we learned that restaurants that are rooted in community are more resilient in the future.
Resilient systems are learning systems. In our project, we define resilience as the capacity to adapt, change, and reorganize when faced with disturbances such as COVID-19. And our thesis statement is, how might we work with immigrant-owned businesses and restaurants on Avenue B in the East Village by co-creating a community-centered interdependence framework?
So knowing the context of limited organizing approaches and tools, we have also acquired specific restaurant owner needs through in-depth interviews. This includes marketing, funding, and staffing support. So we began to think, restaurant resilience is about learning how to adapt to challenges and take on a holistic perspective.
We'd like to introduce you to Shruti, who's one of the restaurant owners we've been working with. Shruti opened Kaladi, which means players, 6 months before the pandemic to share her South Indian cuisine with the East Village. Within the first few months of the pandemic, she had to lay off 50% of her staff and also experienced vandalism. No matter what obstacles she faced, she continues to support her employees and innovate her business. She shared with us that the East Village community is one of the main reasons she's been able to survive.
So to address both the interdependence aspect and specific restaurant owner needs, we approached prototypes in 2 areas. First, we wanted to increase communication between restaurant owners, and we wanted also to increase communication between restaurant and local community. So in January, we set up an Instagram account that served as a communication tool. We have attended 2 rounds of open street events in the East Village and to engage with local residents. We have hosted a community hackathon during NYC Open Data Week to problem solve and co-create with local community members. And we have also designed a design sprint that served as a conversational tool for restaurant owners and started a group chat for them to resource and knowledge share.
We view our final intervention as a playbook for restaurant crisis, a roadmap to restaurant resilience, and a possible future.
Our playbook is for community organizers, immigrant-owned, BIPOC, women-owned independent restaurants, community coalitions and organizations, and anyone who wants to practice community with local restaurants and small businesses. Our playbook is split into 4 parts. We begin with meal prep, setting the table, getting acquainted, and dining together. The playbook is designed to be used in a nonlinear way where communities could pick whatever they need based on the context and their needs.
Our playbook opens up with an overview of how to navigate the different sections. We then move into, So our playbook opens up with how to navigate the different sections. And then we move to meal prep, which goes over how to set values as a team, define team roles, and figure out how you all want to work together. We then move to setting the table, which goes over how to use theory as a critical foundation for your project. We highlight the 3 that we used in our project, which is interdependence, food justice, and social determinants of health. We then go to getting acquainted, which goes over how to identify and develop a relationship with a key community stakeholder, conduct primary and secondary research, and utilize participatory research as a means to co-create with your community. We then end with dining together, which goes over tools that community organizers and restaurant owners can use right away. This includes how to plan an internship program and host an internship program, how to identify and leverage already existing community resources, how to put together a restaurant owners group chat and how to moderate the chat, a packet of design sprints that can be used as creative and conversational tools for restaurant owners, and then also how to plan a community hackathon and guiding questions to conduct during the hackathon. We then close with references and a glossary for future use.
And we apologize for the technical difficulty we have. This is supposed to be a video, but...
Large top-down systems of support frequently leave out the most vulnerable restaurants that need the most support. We believe that these systems should make space for communities to self-determine their own needs and solutions. There's power in being connected to others. We are creating alternatives for us to survive and thrive and offset the barriers related to equity that many immigrant restaurants face always, but especially in the time of pandemic. We are creating connections to be able to increase equitable access to resources, knowledge and resource sharing on navigating formal systems, build community solidarity, and grassroots organizing.
We'd like to give you an example of the playbook in use. So the East Village Community Coalition, our community partner, is going to hire a Rooted Restaurants marketing intern sometime in the summer or fall of 2021. And this intern will be able to start a group chat for the restaurant owners, and Shruti from Kaladi, and then Ollie from C&B will both join the chat. And Ollie's actually redoing his restaurant space. He's renovating right now. And we suppose that he might have some extra scraps left over. And so he's able to place this in the chat, and Shruti, who actually wants to redo her outdoor dining area and add a bench, is able to pick up these scraps from Ollie and build her bench, thus resource sharing.
Throughout our project, we noticed examples of interdependence everywhere and how this frame of thinking fosters resilience. As Charles Eisenstein, author of Sacred and Economic States, we are realizing our own inseparability from each other and from the totality of life.
Rooted Restaurants imagines a future where restaurants are resilient, where workers, restaurant owners, community organizations are able to adapt, learn, and be flexible when faced with challenges such as COVID-19. In the near future, our community partner, East Village Community Coalition, will continue implementing our interventions.
In the further future, we hope that other community organizations can take this work and build community and relationships with local restaurants and the surrounding residents and evolve this work.
Thank you for listening.